Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome as you're coming in. Seeing your faces appearing, seeing your names appearing, and as always, I'm going to invite some folks from the more than human world in with us today. You'll have to listen very carefully to hear these folks. Here they come. And with that, we are welcoming the Egyptian slit-eyed bats. These bats have a deep slit in their face that runs from the base of their ears to their nostrils. The slit helps them to echolocate and detect the beings who will be their food, all in the dark. Unlike most other bats, slit-eyed bats don't hibernate. And they have two roosts, one they use during the day and one they use during the night. Welcome, slit-eyed bats. You who have arrived, it's so nice to see you. Welcome to the Compassion Consortium Sunday Service. My name is Sarah Bowen, and I am joined today by co-founders Victoria Moran and Reverend William Melton, as well as Phil and Elaine. To ensure we don't have any unwanted or disruptive guests, we've turned off some of the Zoom sharing functions, so you may notice that. We meet for Sunday service once each month, and beginning next month, that's on the third Sunday, which will be November 19th. And it will be our very special Friends and Family service as we celebrate the holy day or holy-ish day of Thanksgiving. If you're new to us, welcome. We're an interfaith and interspiritual and interspecies community. Interfaith means we welcome people of any religion or spiritual path or system of meaning making or philosophy. And we feature a diverse range of them within our Sunday services. Today, we'll be talking with John Pierre and David Greene about the paths of animal activism and veganism. Interspiritual is a term that's coined by Brother Wayne Teasdale, and it means that we believe that underneath all of the world's religions and spiritual philosophies, we can find commonalities, particularly commitments to shared values of peace, which I'm going to talk about today, compassionate service, and love for the earth community. And finally, we're interspecies, which means that when we say earth community, we mean everyone. We mean those who are well known, like the cat and dog companions, perhaps in your home, or the cows and the lobsters who are being exploited for human purposes. And we also mean beings who are not so well known, like the kinkajou. Has anyone ever met a kinkajou? No? A kinkajou is a furry animal living in the rainforest of Central and South America who has a prehensile tail, which means a tail that can do lots of cool stuff, that's used to hang from trees, and a long tongue for licking nectar from flowers. So when we mean everybody, we mean everybody. At the beginning of each of our Sunday services, I offer an acknowledgement drawing our awareness to beings who are indigenous also to a specific habitat that I'm in. And today I'm in Lee's Summit, Missouri, land which was originally occupied by the Kickapoo and the Kaskaskia. In the early 1900s, this land, the homestead where this land was purchased by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And it was designed to be a spiritual community based in the tenets of spiritual healing and vegetarian living in the early 1900s. The property is now home to incredibly bouncy squirrels, a beautifully peaceful herd of deer, and a lot of birds who I'm yet to identify with my time here. But I'm enjoying the shadows that they cast over the sidewalk and the sounds that they bring to this habitat. I'm here for a 3-day retreat that we've helped sponsor, the Compassion Consortium, with In Defense of Animals, that was led by Reverend Carol Saunders of the Spiritual Forum. You all heard from Rev Carol last week. And our retreat theme this year is Peace Begins with Me. And it couldn't be more timely. According to the Gospel of Merriam-Webster, here are some definitions of peace. See if any of these sound like what peace means to you. a state of tranquility or quiet, freedom from civil disturbance, freedom from disquieting or oppressive thoughts and emotions, harmony in personal relations, a state of mutual accord between governments, a pact or agreement to end hostilities between those who've been at war. And I'm struck when I read that we have a lot of problems with peace on this planet. There are very few places of tranquility or quiet that are left. Our world is overflowing with disturbances between groups of people who disagree with each other's ideologies. I think of Ukraine and Afghanistan, Myanmar, Iran, Korea, Taiwan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Burkina Faso, Haiti, Pakistan, Mali. I could keep going on. Of course, now the Hamas-Israel war. And right in the US where we're located, I think of racial and ethno-religious violence that's going on. I think of lack of harmony in personal relationships, intimate partner violence, families who are estranged from each other. I think of humans and other than humans who've been robbed by peace from oppression and exploitation. Research labs and factory farms and polluted rivers and fracked mountains. And oh dear God, would someone stop Sarah? Right? What's weighing on your heart? When I mention all of these things, all put together, all of this experience we have here on Earth, how does it feel? Sadness, confusion, frustration, anger, hopelessness? Do you feel any of those? It can feel impossible to feel peaceful. Yet feeling peace is essential to well-being. What a quandary this raises. How do we feel peaceful when there is all this, I want to use a fancy four-letter word, but I'm not going to do it, William, when there is all of this stuff going on in the world, right? How do we feel peaceful? We've been talking about that this weekend. And some people have told me they feel guilty if they feel peaceful or joyful or happy while there is still suffering in the world. I will never be happy. I will never be peaceful as long as there is suffering in the world. And I understand where this comes from. The idea that it's not fair to be happy or peaceful or joyful when others are suffering. It's a way of holding on to commitment. It's also a way of getting burnt out and empathetic distress and depression and anxiety and all sorts of other stuff we don't want to feel. And so that's what we're doing here this weekend at Unity Village. We're trying to figure out how do you have moments of peace and joy and happiness in order to be mentally well. Think of them like oases in the desert. You've got a desert of suffering, and you've got this little oasis you have to stop by every once in a while so that you can drink, so that you can feel peaceful, so you can feel coolness, so you can feel shade. We can support each other in being able to have laughter. And at the same time, that laughter may be followed by tears. So we welcome all of the emotions that come, encouraging each other never to apologize for showing what we're feeling. We do not need to apologize for crying about something that's sad. We do not need to apologize for busting out a gut laughing when somebody says something really funny in the middle of a serious moment. These emotions show us that we are feeling instead of shutting down. It's my hope that these Sunday services encourage you to do that. If you feel moved to tears today, grab a tissue. You're a winner. I keep saying criers are winners. If we say something funny, please feel free to laugh aloud. Yes, you can laugh at Sunday service. During today's spiritual practice, I hope you find a few minutes of peace, quiet, tranquility, thanks to the help of some seagulls. And at our fellowship time, I encourage you to share your biggest frustrations and your funniest anecdotes. All of that is welcome here. Everything is welcome. And speaking of welcome, to wrap up here, I'd like to invite you to invite a friend or family member to our next service. It's being held the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And our service will contain ideas for helping our friends and family members understand the commitments to peace and nonviolence that we've made towards peoples and animals and habitats. Bring your friends and family here to try to explain what the heck it is you're doing. We might be able to help. If you're gathering with your family or friends for the holiday week, encourage them to Zoom in with you. Like have some food and munchies that taste real good. Zoom in, check out what we're doing. If you don't have Thanksgiving plans, well, consider making this service your Thanksgiving celebration this year. Invite a few friends over to watch, perhaps share a meal afterwards, and talk about how you can bring peace to the world. That's my invitation for you to send your invitation. William, over to you.
This is the time of the service where we read our tenets of agreement, which are very important to us. And today, our tenets will be read by Joan Dewey, who now lives in northern Arizona after 30 years in Alaska. She is a social worker by training and profession. She is a co-founder of Pethel Friends of Canines, Inc. since 2011, which is a rescue nonprofit organization in remote Bethel, Alaska, that serves 56 communities in a region the size of Oregon, with no road system in or out, providing rehoming, spay, neutering, vaccinations, family resources and education, and emergency medical transports. Joan joined the vegan community and movement in March 2017, and it was during a continuing education training, a holistic vegan cruise, that she became aware of many aspects to the significance of eating a plant-based diet. But she points out that the most compelling reason for becoming a vegan came about for Joan during a presentation by Gene Bauer, our good friend, the founder of Farm Sanctuary, Inc. So Joan, please read the tenets for us now.
Thank you. These are the tenets of agreement. 1, we acknowledge a divine force at the heart of the universe and in all living beings. We may refer to this force as God, but it is known by many names and appears in different forms or as formless. 2, we recognize the common moral principles inherent within all wisdom traditions. 3, we affirm that compassion, reverence for life, and nonviolence are fundamental to religious faith and moral philosophy and are to be extended to all sentient beings. 4, we stand by the principles of inclusion, diversity, and equality, and hold these as essential in our human relations. 5, we hold that non-human animals are imbued with the same essence of life and love as our human animals, and that there is moral parity between us. 6, we avow that humans do not own the earth, its resources, or its inhabitants, but instead must be involved in their protection and care. 7, we endeavor to eat and live in a kind and sustainable manner, moving away from animal foods and animal-derived clothing, as well as any activities that cause harm to our fellow beings, human or otherwise. 8, we aim to provide spiritual comfort, fellowship, and food for thought to those practicing or exploring a vegan lifestyle. 9, we offer guidance and peer support for all those seeking a more compassionate and spiritual life. And 10, we commit to sharing these principles freely with humility and respect in support of non-human animals and the earth.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Oh, okay. All right. Good. Okay.
next are seagulls. I wanted to kind of yell flock of seagulls, but I feel like that's not exactly where we're headed. We're headed into interspecies spiritual practice of seagulls. So let me introduce to you a little bit about this practice today. And thank you, Joan, so much for reading those tenets so beautifully for us. So today's interspecies practice comes from animal chaplain Jody Jacobs, who's founder of the Fosters and Ferals Challenge. In 2021, she challenged herself to make a donation to a different animal organization every single day of the year for 365 days. Her goal was to help as many organizations as possible, big or small, by donating and then raising awareness to each one of those organizations. I'm going to post her list for you all in the chat of 365 animal-related organizations. I know most of you know a lot of great organizations as well, but there might be a few new here to discover. In the practice, Jody takes inspiration from our winged neighbors. And as birds all over the world are involved in migrations right now, some safely, and others with pretty big risks due to the challenges of sky rises, if you've been following what's going on in Chicago, heartbreak, overlit cities, weather changes, the difficulties of migrating are really, really tough on winged beings. So as we engage in this practice today, I'm going to help us dedicate it to the well-being of birds everywhere. Take a deep breath and just listen to Jody's voice, watch the visuals, and pour your heart out in hopes of the safety and well-being of winged beings on this planet. Phil, you can roll the video.
Today's interspecies spiritual practice is called Soaring with Seagulls. We're here at the beach where some of my favorite beings usually congregate. Those beings are seagulls. Unfortunately, many people are not as fascinated by seagulls as I am. In fact, some people chase them and throw rocks at them. I can't comprehend why people would treat them in this way. Seagulls are considered to be among the most intelligent birds in the world and are found on every continent, including the Arctics. Seagulls can fly as fast as 28 miles per hour. They generally live between 5 and 15 years, although some have a lifespan of over 30 years. Depending on the type of gull, their body weight ranges from 4 ounces to 4 pounds. Their height, 11 to 30 inches, and they have a wingspan of 24 to 67 inches. 67 inches, that's nearly 6 feet. Sadly, seagulls have been mistreated and misunderstood for a very long time. But not today. Today, we will honor them. I want to dedicate this meditation to my special seagull friend, Paul, who visits me at my home nearly every day. Let's begin. Sit comfortably with both feet on the ground. Place your palms together in front of your heart and set an intention to send love to seagulls everywhere. Once you are finished with your intention, rest your hands on your lap, either palms up or palms down, whichever is most comfortable for you. Now close your eyes and picture yourself at the beach. Take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Continue breathing in and out at a pace that feels right for you. Allow yourself to completely let go and breathe. Notice how relaxed and comfortable you feel. Pay attention to any sounds you hear. Perhaps you can feel a slight breeze. Be aware of any smells. Can you taste the salt water on your tongue? Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. Remember, you are completely safe and protected at all times. Now imagine you are a seagull. Feel yourself flying through the sky. How does it feel? What does it smell like? What is the view like from up in the sky? How far can you see? Does it make you feel free? Continue to fly around, taking it all in. Seagull, you fly across the horizon into the misty morning sun. Nobody asks you where you are going. Nobody knows where you're from. Now you fly through the sky, never asking why. And you fly all around until somebody says, "Come down." Now it's time for you to come back down to the beach. Slowly feel yourself coming back to your body. Notice your breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Wiggle your fingers and toes and bring awareness back inside your body. Take your time. Continue with your slow breaths. ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you for joining me in this practice and for sending love to seagulls everywhere.
I hope that brought some of you a few moments or minutes of peace in the middle of the world's chaos. Thanks to Jody Jacobs and thanks to Seagull Paul. And Victoria, now we're over to you.
Thanks so much, everybody who's here. Thanks, Reverend Sarah, everybody who's spoken. And thank you for the seagulls. I am a major fan, even though I came from Kansas City, Missouri, as far away from a seagull as you can possibly get. But growing up in the Midwest had some decided perks, one of which was that in early adulthood, I made my way to Chicago, actually a couple of times. And one of the blessings of being there was a coterie of friends that I made and still have. And one of them is our special guest today. I don't want to embarrass him, but whenever I think about St. Francis, I think about John Pierre. Okay, John, stop being embarrassed. You can come back now. I met him when he was just out of high school. We were at a potluck, a vegetarian potluck, hosted by a gentleman called Ted Zagar, very much ahead of his time. This was happening in 1983 or 84. And even then, JP was an extraordinary human being, and you're going to find more out about that today from the Boulder, Colorado area. Welcome, John Pierre.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for those wonderful meditations we just did. Beautiful.
Weren't those cool? Oh my gosh, there's just something about a seagull. They're just so sure of themselves. Yeah, like to be more like that sometimes. So, JP, start at the very beginning. We have such a little bit of time, and I wish that people could listen to you for hours on end. You were a weird kid. You were at this potluck. Nobody else was 18. What got you there?
Well, I've always loved animals, and I was always kind, and I just wanted to do what was right always. And once I started reading more around high school, 1983, and I start understanding that that chicken McNugget was actually a chicken and that hamburger was actually a cow, well, that just stopped me right there from eating those animals. And so then I just looked everywhere I could to find out more information about this term that I wasn't familiar with, vegetarian and vegan. And somehow I stumbled upon the potlucks, which was really very fortunate. And that's also where I met you.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. Did you go to public school? What were your parents like? Were you popular?
Yeah, I went to public school. I was just kind of a normal kid. I loved always animals, and I was always like, birds would often hit the windows in Chicago, and I would run out and I would kneel down and pray and try to get them to come back to life. And in a couple of minutes they come back to life. And I thought it was Dr. Doolittle. So from a young age, I was always trying to be around animals and try to assist them any way I could. But I think I was just raised maybe similar to you, just traditional Midwest. There was no vegetarianism around or veganism or anything. And, we always had pets, but nothing out of the ordinary. It was mainly once I started reading and educating myself about these other values and other ideas that were out there, that they all resonated with me right away. And it was like a key that fits in a lock. It was just a perfect fit.
So you got into the fitness business pretty early on. And as far back as I can remember, you didn't just do it as a business. You did pro bono work with domestic violence survivors, with seniors. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, I've been working with abused women for 30 years. And in Chicago, I used to work for the shelters. Many of them were kind of hidden shelters. They were homes converted into shelters. And then I used to collect clothing for them and food, actually vegan food. And I also used to collect clothing from the high school that I went to after I graduated, and I would donate that all to the shelters. So I started pretty early doing that. And then also around high school and a little after, I really start seeing a need for the elderly. I start seeing that these folks that really help build our world were kind of cast aside when they were no longer able to perform and have an output like they used to. And so I thought, geez, we really need to take care of these people. They're kind of like our veterans from the war. They're often discarded. And so then I start going into retirement homes, and really about maybe it's getting close to 30 years, I created the first brain building programs in the United States using a plant-based diet, different nutraceuticals, and then brain building exercises and physical like boot camps to develop new neuroplasticity in the brain for them. So I was always trying to work where I thought I was in need or there was no attention being, which back then it was animals, it was abused women, and it was the seniors.
So when you went out and prayed for the birds, did you have a specific religious connection, or was it just you and God and the bird?
Well, I was raised Catholic, so I don't recall, if I was praying to God or what, but I know I was kneeling down and putting my hands in a prayer position and kind of also trying to send love to that bird and please get up, please fly away, please be okay, that type of thing. And most of the time that it happened, again, I thought I did it, they were just stunned from hitting the windows, but that somehow brought me even closer to animals because somehow I thought, oh, wow, I'm helping heal these animals. I got to do this on a bigger scale.
Well, you probably were. We don't know why things happen. So, JP, the whole fitness thing, back when you were getting into it, was not where it is today. It was something that a few celebrities, a few very wealthy people had trainers. Everybody knew you should kind of sort of exercise. But what was it about that attracted you, that this has been your means for service through your career?
Well, it's a portion, it got my foot in the door, but it was a portion for me to be able to reach people and try to help revamp a lot of their broken systems that they were found. Their diet was terrible. There wasn't much love and compassion. There wasn't much attention to the environment with them. So since more and more people were getting into it, it was really just a way for me to get my foot in the door. People wanted to look better, feel better, perform better. And that was one of the skills that I had. I did lots of different certifications and trainings. And I had studied with many different practitioners, and I just wanted to share that with people. But by no means was it just what I was doing. Everyone thought that's all I did, but it was just a small portion of what I was really doing.
What else were you doing?
Well, I was working with them to transition to a plant-based diet. I was trying to get them to be more friendly to animals and the environment, more loving and kind, more conscientious of the words that they were using in their vocabulary with their children or their spouses. So I was really looking at from a holistic, really perspective. And when Marina, my co-founder and co-writer with my first book, The Pillars of Health, we put that all in there. And people were kind of surprised. They thought, oh, JP, I thought you just did this fitness stuff. I didn't know you did all the nutrition and the brain building and the love and compassion, but that's something I always did. I tied everything together.
So about 20 years ago, give or take, I heard through the grapevine some rather shocking information. Did you hear that John Pierre moved to LA? And it's like, what would John Pierre be doing in LA? But it turned out to be the truth. Why did you go? How did you like it? What did you learn?
Well, actually, a friend of ours, Howard Lyman, who you've known for a long time, he actually he contacted me and asked me to come out to kind of help a senior activist that was probably back then, she might have been in her 70s or 80s, and, kind of help take care of her and make sure things are okay at her house. So I ended up moving out there, staying there. And then, of course, the word got out that I was there, and I start working with clients. And then those clients, many of them were connected. And then before you knew it, I was working with, lots of different celebrities and helping them transition to a plant-based diet, get more fit, and hopefully be more loving and compassionate.
How'd you do?
How did I do?
In getting them to be more loving and compassionate.
Well, yeah, a lot of them, sure, we got to go. That ones that weren't vegan, we got them to go vegan. Many of them that weren't as kind and loving as they could be, got that information. And with my background in working with abused women, some of the other celebrities that had terrible abuse as a child were able to finally come out and talk about it and help other women, and especially young girls, about it. So I'm very proud of that work I did. It's just that I got very known for working with celebrities, and that was just a small portion of what I did in my career. It's more important to me that people talk about my geriatric work, because that's so important to me, the fall prevention and the brain building programs that I created. Working with celebrities, they're really no different than you or I. They're just on TV or in movies, and they have a lot more money. But when it come down to the end of the day, they're human beings too, and they feel pain and they have sadness and they have problems too.
Well, talk a little bit, JP, about the connection between the love and compassion and health and brain building and all of these other things that are so important to all of us while we're here.
Yeah, well, one thing that I've seen unfortunately happen, for the last 20 plus years is the society just really kind of turning, to a demise of society and a breakdown. And one of the things I've always said is we need to be very conscientious about the words that we use and the words that we allow into our being. Sticks and stones, sure, they can break your bones, but words, they can tear your heart apart. And most of the women that I worked with at the shelters would tell me stories that they were hurt more by their husbands or boyfriends' derogatory words than they were from being punched or hit. And so one of the things I always try to share with people is be very conscientious of the words that you allow into your fertile garden, which is your mind, and be conscientious of the television, the movies, the music you listen to, the negative people you surround yourself with, because these words start building up in you. And when we're born, we're kind of like a blank computer, and we get programmed by these words and ideas. And so you have to be conscientious of that. And then you also have to be conscientious of the words that you use around other people. And they can be very hurtful, the words, I don't even say the word HATE. When we start using that term, it's such a negative, nasty word, and it's so vile that I'm just very conscientious of these words that I use. And I try to share with my clients to be careful of the words that they're using around their children. Because, I can remember working with some very famous spiritual people in LA, and they needed my help. And once I went to their house, I saw their main problem. They would scream and drop F-bombs with their kids all day long, the whole time I was there. And I had to confront them. I said, in your studio, you're wearing these white robes and everyone's following you as if you're these gurus. But really, behind closed doors, you're not a guru at all. I said, you're very mean and nasty to your kids, and you want me to help your kids? Well, it's pretty easy. You need to stop treating your kids like you do and stop that terminology.
So, JP, if somebody here today came to you, I don't know if you're even still doing one-on-one training or coaching, but if you are, or if you were, what would that person expect? What would happen for them?
Well, normally if somebody wants to work with me, I first want to know what specifically is their goal or goals. Some people want me to work with their diet. Some want to work fitness. Some want to work emotional. Some want to work more on changing their environment so it's more environmentally friendly, so they have less plastics and less products in their home. So it's kind of a whole holistic viewpoint. It's whatever they want. If they're giving me full control, well, then I do what Marina and I wrote about in our first book, The Pillars of Health. I pretty much cover all those avenues. Since we're seeing such a high rate of cognitive decline right now, and kids are starting to lose, brain functioning, I focus a lot of my time on a diet and a lifestyle that's conducive to healthy brain functioning and the ability to focus. I focus a lot of time on proper movement, not necessarily going to a gym, but living an active lifestyle and moving, very importantly, throughout the day, not just your half hour in the morning and then you sit for 12 hours, but moving throughout the day. And then, of course, the most important thing I focus on is loving relationships and being kind, and just making sure that every day you're doing something for someone or something other than yourself. You have to extend yourself to the next realm and be selfless and do for others.
So you're no longer in LA and you are in Colorado. So tell us what's happening out there.
Yeah, I'm still between Chicago and Colorado, but I have a nonprofit, Living with Harmony. And we basically work to educate, motivate, and inspire people to live a more kinder life. And we work with a team that helps rescue kids in trafficking. We, of course, do lectures throughout the country for free, but we spend a lot of our time not only rescuing animals, but talking to the public about the environmental devastation that's taking place. People don't realize that we're using about, in terms of purchasing, about 1 million plastic bottles a minute and about 5 trillion plastic bags a year we're going through. And the question you need to start asking yourself from an environmental standpoint is, when you throw something away, where is away? There is no away. And so our organization really tries hard to educate people about this environmental disaster that's taking place. And unfortunately, the doomsday clock is almost at midnight. Meatless Mondays aren't going to solve our problem anymore. And we need to all take a little bit more action, and we need to be all more responsible for the purchases that we make and the actions that we take in life. So Living with Harmony focuses on that all the time. We don't get paid for that. We don't take any money. That's just our work that we do. So if I'm not seeing clients or doing lectures, then we're rescuing animals or doing work for the environment.
Tell us about some of your rescued animals.
We have about 20 dogs, cats, bunnies, birds, turtles. Most of them come to us that no one can take. So a cat that's paralyzed has to have her bladder expressed manually 3 times a day. You have to be trained to do that, and it takes a lot of time. They need acupuncture, massage, laser therapy. Sometimes we'll get a bird that's missing a wing or a turtle that's missing a foot. So we pretty much take in the ones that no one else would want. They're kind of the misfits.
I feel like you were looking for misfits way back in Chicago. You've just expanded the species reach. So what's the plan going forward? What do you want to do in your next chapter?
Well, we're trying to hopefully somebody will help us out with a property, because we want to develop a retreat center and still have a micro sanctuary there. But we want to have a property where we can teach classes and educate the public and still do a lot of women's empowerment courses too. I run a retreat in Chicago in May. This year or next year, it's going to be May 22nd through the 26th. So that's kind of a little microcosm of what we do, because Marina will come, my assistant, and she helps me. We do my first book, The Pillars of Health, and then our second book, Strong, Savvy, Safe. We cover that. And then we bring in a trauma therapist to talk about trauma. And we talk a lot about the environment. So that gives people a glimpse in what we're trying to create. Because a lot of the vegan community and people who are loving and kind and, compassionate are getting older. And they don't want to go into a retirement home and be served, Salisbury steak and mashed potatoes and butter. And they need to be around an environment of people who are loving and kind and compassionate. And so we're trying to create that community where people can move in the vicinity of where we are and other places around the country. But part of healing and health, as we've seen in the blue zones, and I've been talking about for 25 years, is having a close-knit community, having loving relationships with friends and family, and close-knit ties. Being able to feel safe and be able to express yourself unconditionally is a very important part of healing.
I'm just putting the retreat URL in the chat. Well, that is such an important thing. I have just among my personal acquaintances 2 friends, an erstwhile vegetarian and an erstwhile vegan, both of whom are now eating every kind of animal product because they're in a nursing home and there simply is not enough food to survive otherwise. And so this is such an important thing that you're doing. As you talk about the children in human trafficking, you've heard as often as I have, oh, you animal people, you don't care about humans. I mean, obviously that's not true. So tell me a little bit about that very important work that you're doing.
Well, people don't realize this has been going on forever. It's next to drugs. It's the second, biggest thing out there is basically human trafficking in terms of money. And right under that, believe it or not, involved with trafficking is the trafficking of human organs, which often happens to these children when they commit suicide or they just die. They traffic their organs. And so this is another atrocity. And part of this is that, one of the things I've tried to educate, like I've never seen pornography. So I took a stance against it. One, because I don't want my dollar to go to that industry. And I also don't want those type of images in my mind, because again, if the mind is a fertile garden, you need to be very conscientious of what you plant in there because it's going to grow. And so, I try to explain to a lot of men that I work with that this isn't a very addictive substance, really, that they're watching is pornography. And it's just something that is really hurting their relationship. But once they get bored in their relationships and whatever they're doing, it's unfortunately a common transition then to want something to spice things up. And they see ads for child pornography and they get addicted to that then. So it's something that we need to be educated about. And Marina and I wrote about that in our second book, Strong, Savvy, Safe, which is a guide to safety and self-defense, particularly for women, but for anybody. And that was a lot of experience that I had with working with abused women all these years. But, this is $1 billion industry. And unfortunately, these poor children are, I don't want to speak for them, but many times they'd be better off not on this earth than have to go through the cruelty and the abuse that they're facing. And many of them are told by their captors that if they don't perform, their families will be killed or hurt. So it's an abomination. And thankfully, one of the groups that I work with, Project Child Save, is out there rescuing these children and doing their very best. There's many organizations out there, but I think we need to be educated as a public, and we need to start educating men too about some of the dangers of pornography and what it can lead to in terms of a perversion.
Thank you. So as we wind down today, JP, you've got a room full here of compassionate people, and probably an equal number will be watching this within the next week. So to people who really identify as compassionists, that's what we call ourselves here at the CC, what is your most important message to a fellow compassionist?
Well, I think it's important to realize that not everyone is compassionate, but those are the people that we need to be the most compassionate with. And those are the people we need to have the most patience with, because again, we were all born blank computers. Hitler was born blank, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, but they all got programmed to be who they are. So you wouldn't blame a kid who was raised by the Ku Klux Klan and he's throwing bricks through people's windows. You wouldn't blame him for that because he was raised since birth with that. You would try to re-educate that child and let them know that these people have feelings just like you and I, and they're no different than us. They're different, but the same. And so I think it's important that as activists, when I see a lot of activists who are so-called vegans that are very mean and cruel to people, and I think that every time we meet somebody, we need to make sure that we leave that interaction with them better than when they came to it, and spread some magical pixie dust on them each time we see them that's loving and kind.
So as people go out to look for you, I'm putting up a couple of websites, johnpierre.com and livinginharmony.org. What's the difference? What do we?
Right.
Yeah. Livingwithharmony.org. My apologies. So what are we going to find at each one of those places?
I don't use the johnpierre.com much anymore. There's some videos of me doing some fitness stuff there with a celebrity, and there's some basic information, but the livingwithharmony.org, we are on Facebook and Instagram, and that's where I try to send most of the people, because most of the work is with Living with Harmony. But that's just information that we have, free information. There's a 12-minute documentary on Living with Harmony, and soon there'll be a podcast up that somebody did with us, 3 different segments. So it's just an educational portal, and you can download our planet-based living guide, which is something we created that shows you how to live a kind and loving, way of life, not only to your fellow human being, but to yourself and the animals and the planet.
Final question. What makes you happy?
Well, what makes me happy is when I see good people that are out there being more beacons of light and love. I just love seeing that. And it's the reason I do my work, because if I do a lecture and there's, say, 100 people, and 1 or 2 of them leave and take the information and share with other people, and then they tell me about it or I read about it, that makes me the happiest, because then I realize that all the hard work that I've been doing is paying off. Even though it's a small thing, it's like Mother Teresa said, the smallest deed done is far greater than the largest intention. So that makes me the happiest.
Oh, thank you. JP, it makes me happy that we are on Earth at the same time. Thank you so much for being with us today. And if you can hang around and be in a breakout room, those people will be really, really lucky. So thank you
for your work.
Thank you.
Today, we're speaking with David Greene. He's a vegan activist, a political activist, a former congressional candidate, creator of the Beyond Vaudeville show, which was formerly on MTV, and it's now on YouTube if you want to take a look. He's founder of the world's largest vegan and vegetarian meetup group, and according to his friends and the friends we have in common, one of the smartest and kindest people they know. So welcome, David. We're so glad you're here.
It is wonderful to be with you, Elaine. Thank you very much. Oh, my camera. Let me just see. Here we go. Wonderful to be with you. It's really an honor to be here with you, and thank you.
I, for one, am very curious about your voyage to veganism. How did you become a vegan? And how did you become a vegan activist, and also your activism in the world at large, an activist for justice? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I became a vegan. I was a college student, and my mother served me spare ribs, and I didn't want to eat them. About a month later, I became a vegetarian. I was but it, no, just because the spare ribs looked like a dead animal on my plate, and a light bulb went on. And I ate meat for about a month. A month later, I became a vegetarian. And then a year after that, I became a vegan.
You are also an activist, a vegan activist, and a political activist as well. How did those two develop in your life? How do they play against each other right now?
I wasn't much of a vegan activist until and actually my meetup group, it was founded by meetup.com. I didn't found it. I've been the longest serving organizer of it. I've been the main organizer of it for 15 years. But when I took it over as the main organizer of this group, it kind of inspired me to do activism. And we've done activism in the group. Also, our group is a social group, but a big reason it exists is to answer the question, well, I've become a vegan. None of my friends are vegan. I'd like to be able to eat food with other vegans. How can I do that? And, most vegans, sadly, statistics tell us they do backslide. So we are there to provide that community for them when they become vegan. Hey, there's these other people. In fact, there's a loving community out there full of people who want to meet you and support you in your veganism. We also have non-vegetarian members. We try to inspire a few. We try to inspire them to become vegan, and we have vegetarian members who are not vegan, and we inspire them to become vegan. We hope to. We've also done a good amount of direct activism, literature distribution. We've followed that Mercy for Animals format of setting up laptops in Union Square Park and paying people $1 to watch a 4-minute video, typically about animal abuse. So, but, I think our biggest activism is just providing that community for people, and especially for new vegans, so they have a place to go and that they don't backslide. Maybe that was a roundabout answer to your question, but I'll just mention a lot of my personal vegan activism started the day that I became the main organizer of this large meetup group.
So that actually, you answered a question I was going to ask you anyway, how you use your activism is very community-based, and how you were using that community-based activism as an outreach to the non-vegan world. So thank you for that. That answered that perfectly. And you also answered what happens during your vegan meetups. I was very curious about that. Aside from being in a very population-centric area, New York and New Jersey, what do you think? It's not just being in that area that contributes to a membership of 19,000 plus. How do you account for that massive membership in your groups?
We do a lot of fun things. Besides going to vegan restaurants, which is the bread and butter of what we do, we have a monthly, it's going to sound funny, drinking night. where we typically go to luxury hotel rooftops, and we go to a different one every month. We've gone to a number of Lincoln Center performances, we do movies, picnics, boat rides, all kinds of fun things. We try to, in our way, outdo the other non-vegan meetup groups in showing, doing a big variety of things, a lot of fun, splashy kind of things. And I think it's our kind of dedication to doing these fun, splashy things. We're kind of, in the back of my mind, I want to show people how fun, how much, people think, oh, vegan, stodgy, you're talking about the latest recipes. And I'm trying to make our group like break out of, I mean, we since our inception, we've broken out of that and done all these fun, kind of splashy, exciting things. I think that's been why we've grown so large.
I love that, because it is a deadly subject sometimes because of, the concern for animals and what happens to them. And I like that you're making vegans fun and vital. I love that. It's so cool. What does your future look like now, David? What are you doing in future plans to make the world a more compassionate place for animals?
Well, with regard to the group, I mean, I forgive my simply saying I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I like what our group has done. I don't have really splashy, thing. I mean, other than keep doing the fun things we're doing, I'm not really thinking about a course change with the group. It's working as it is. And, I'm just very happy. I love being a part of the group, and I love all the things we're doing, and so I'm happy keeping on with what we're doing.
One last question: what is the coolest thing you ever did with our friend Phil Dijon?
Having him get married on the last episode of my MTV show. Oh, and if people are looking it up, the Beyond Vaudeville was the public access incarnation of that, which you correctly said. The MTV incarnation was called Oddville, Oddville. And as it so happened, he got married on that last episode of our show. And I'd say that was the coolest thing that I've done with him.
Well, David, thank you so much. It's time for us to wrap up, and appreciate you sharing your views and your successes in your meetup group. So, and thank you for being here as a guest.
Wonderful to be with you.
Thank you.
So I almost didn't come back because I wanted to go find out Phil on YouTube. All of a sudden I wanted to go down the Google hole, because I don't go down the rabbit hole. I go down the Google hole around here. It is time for blessings and prayers, folks. One of the ways that we deal with all of the things that are heavy on our heart. I'm going to ask Phil to open the chat, please, so that we can use it for blessings. We can use it for prayers. If there's something that's going on for you that you would like to voice, it often feels good and helps to vocalize the things that we're worried about. On the other hand, it often helps to talk about the things that are joyful too. Again, back to the beginning of the service today, the intermixing of things that are joyful and things that bring us heartbreak. And so I have invited today Annie Lee, if we could, Animal Chaplain Annie Lee, to come on up. And Phil, if you could get Annie Lee up with me here. Annie wrote a beautiful, beautiful blessing that I had the pleasure to be able to read. And I wooed her. I guess it's early friends and family week here. I wooed a friend and someone I consider family as well here, Annie Lee, to read a beautiful blessing that I'm hoping touches some hearts here. So Phil, make me go away, and let's give Annie Lee the floor.
Thank you, Reverend Sarah, and it certainly would not have taken any wooing. I'm very delighted to be here with everybody. This blessing is offering of a blessing for our animal loves who currently share our home. Please know this blessing while you are healthy and happy. Many other blessings will be offered if you move on from this world before I do. Beautiful creatures with joy-filled veins, may you continue to live within and feel surrounded by that joy every day. May you remain free of pain, and if pain comes, may you accept comfort and know you are loved. May each of you continue to exert your individual wants and needs, even when it may not be convenient for others. May you always feel welcome to pad over and sit on top of us at any time, regardless of our activity. May you continue to join your mom and dad in bed every night within seconds of their settling in there. May your loud purring continue to fill our dreams as you stretch and take over my part of the pillow, actually, your part of my pillow. May you continue to push over any roadblock your mom sets up to try to keep you from drinking her glass of water during the wee hours. May you continue to lean out the car window, safely seatbelted, to offer your overflowing love to people in other cars. May you never lose your curiosity and independence as you try to get out the front door. And may you understand why we cannot allow you to go out without us. May there never come a time you don't feel welcome to come stand near a person and lay your head in their lap. May you always get in your dad's way when he is eating Cheerios, trying to monitor the amount of oat milk that may be left over for you and for one of your brothers. May the three of you never change in your comfort of snuggling in one another's fur, eating one another's food, and playing chase throughout the house. May you all know there are countless other good things your mom and dad want for you. Should you become ill, may you always feel our love and not be frightened. May you guide us to know when we should offer medical care and when we should help you move on from pain. May you always feel our love and our gratitude for all of you as we continue our lives together. And should the time come when we need to let go of any or all of you, may you feel nothing but love and warmth as we hold you and cherish you into your next world.
Folks, take a breath. Annie Lee, thank you for that beautiful outpouring of love and compassion that brought me both soft, tender spots in my heart, as well as a couple of good chuckles. I have folks in my house who also think they own the pillows. So thank you so much for that. And folks, if you have anything that you need blessings or prayers for, please put that in the chat. And Phil, if you can bring up our last slide of the words that we say together each week. And we'll say these all together. May all creatures everywhere be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of our lives contribute to this happiness and freedom for all. May it be so. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Whatever your ending word is, folks, for your religion or your spiritual tradition, if you would please say that in your own home. We are so glad that you have joined us today for Sunday service. And I'm going to hand it over, or Annie Lee and I are going to hand it over to William, who's got some announcements and is going to tell us a little bit more about inviting your friends and family, even if you don't have to woo them, to the next Sunday service. Annie Lee, thanks for being with us. William, you're up.
So thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to share with you a few upcoming events before we have our fellowship time. So And while I read these, Phil has given you all the opportunity to turn on your video cameras if you like. We'd love to see you at the close of the service if you can stay with us. So the first thing, which I think we said several times, but I do want to make sure that you understand that we are changing our service schedule, and starting on November 19th, because we have recurring holiday conflicts, we're going to start doing our service on November 19th and then December 17th, and basically every third Sunday every month. And then next month on November 19th, our special spiritual guest will be Linda G. Fisher. She is an animal-inspired artist and positive reinforcement animal behaviorist living in Northern California. She is a member of the Ojibwe Native American tribe and a vegan featured in Thomas Jackson's and Victoria's 2019 documentary, A Prayer for Compassion. So please take a look at her exquisite artwork at her website, lindagfisher.com. And then our Compassion and Action guest will be William Radinson. He'll be visiting us from the Veganism in Education Organization, which is www.teachfine.org. And his organization is committed to veganism in education. And so you'll see information about that in the chat. So again, register for our next Sunday service at our Sunday service, and that again is in the chat. And if you would care to make a donation, that certainly is available through the website. So on our next slide, on November 19th, we will be celebrating our annual Friends and Family celebration, and we invite you to bring along your friends and family for a special Sunday gratitude service. And we'll be offering special practices that celebrate our connections with our friends and family, biological and chosen, human and other than human. And we're going to have a special treat for all of you and your guests, a special Thanksgiving vegan cook booklet, which you can download at the service. Then at our next engaged members session on November 7th at 7:30, Reverend Sarah will be leading a candle-based practice in honor of Diwali, a festival of lights, which is celebrated in Hindu and Jain communities and widely throughout India. And then on November 8th through the 12th, the annual Compassion Arts Festival will highlight the work of artists for animals, including well-known fine artists and writers, as well as our own Victoria Moran and Sarah Bowen. And all of these events are free, and that's November 8th through 12th. And I believe that completes all of our announcements, and we can move on from that.